Hello and welcome to the Centre Circle podcast, where we'll be getting to know some of the most interesting and inspiring people from all over football. Whether that be a former Arsenal invincible, the world's youngest ever international football coach, or even the author of a book into the psychology of refereeing. We're doing it all. Staying with refereeing, our first guest is a very promising referee who has been on an unbelievable journey. I hope you enjoy this chat with Ruebyn Ricardo.
I like to think I've always just been authentic and just been myself, and whether that's refereeing or that's Reuben, who's an uncle or whatever, I'm just the same sort of person. And generally, by the way, I just enjoy what I do. I just enjoy life. I know it sounds really cliche and cringe, but I just think I'm in such a privileged position. I just try and embrace all these little things that come with it and just smile. I think is the key. Just smile, yeah, it's good.
What do you think it is within you that sort of resonates with refereeing?
I don't know, because I'll be honest, I look back to 16-year-old me at the time when I started, even probably to age I was like 23. It's just how I was growing up doesn't fit this sort of generic mould is what you think would a referee want to do. And it's really bizarre. I will touch about it in a bit, but it changed my life. It generally did change my life in terms of how I was a person. It changed my life in terms of the path I was going down. And I think I was able just to manage 22 people on a football pitch and use my personality and whatnot amongst theirs to try and bring the game of football to a safe conclusion. And that didn't always work, and it still doesn't all the time. But it almost gave me the sort of freedom just to express myself a little bit, I think, in a bit of a safe environment. And I just sort of took the opportunity and relished it.
Do you think it points towards the fact that maybe you don't need to be a specific type of character to be a referee? Do you think that almost generic view of a referee actually isn't applicable, because you can be a referee regardless of your personality type?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I think it's like, I think anything, a job that has some sort of authority, there's automatically a sort of image on people's heads on what that sort of person needs to look like or needs to be like and have these sort of traits and walk like this. And look, it's not like that. You can literally be yourself with the referee shirt on and fully express yourself and manage a game of football. And the beautiful thing is, there's so many of us in terms of professional game and grassroots, and everyone's got different walks of life, different backgrounds, and everyone's different in their own way. And how one referee referees a game might not be how somebody else does, but it works for them. And I think that being able just to, say about robotic at the start, being able just to go and express yourself is every week is quality, yeah.
Do you think there's room for expression in refereeing?
Massively. Yeah, 100%. I think this is a really good sort of indication. I think we've got opportunities to talk. We do interviews now, and social media pages and all this sort of stuff. And I think those sort of premeditated mindsets are starting to break down a little bit now, to be honest. And people are seeing us slowly but surely more as just human beings.
What about on the pitch? Because football is a game of expression as well, isn't it? The players definitely get the chance to express themselves. Do you feel like on the pitch you are yourself? I know you said you maybe rein in the wild side a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. I think I am myself, and we have to realise you're in a professional environment in front of thousands of people being watched possibly by thousands of people at home. And I think you have to obtain standards 100%. I'm not going to go around doing cartwheels on a pitch.
Why not?
Well, yeah, maybe in the change room.
Yeah.
But I think you have to still be yourself. You have to, because it wouldn't work. If someone said to me, Reuben, go referee like this person this week, it wouldn't work. So genuinely, we have that full support to just go and be ourselves and referee the game the best we can and use the tools that we have available to us.
So did you say you've been full-time now for 2.5 years?
Yeah, so I've made it sort of full-time. So been in the group now for 2.5 years, came into it 2022. And yeah, it's been a crazy journey, yeah.
So how old are you?
27.
Why don't you tell us what you've already done this month at the start of 2025, January 2025? Tell me, because I know you'll be humble and modest, but I want you to actually tell me what you've achieved, because do what you've done at 27 is not ordinary.
Yeah, so I was blessed enough to referee my first championship game on New Year's Day between Millwall and Oxford, which was, getting that appointment was just genuinely surreal. And then very recently, fourth official in the Premier League between Aston Villa and West Ham. And listen, if I could put that feeling in the bottle and sell it, I'd be a multimillionaire. The feeling that come with that was generally amazing, and it's so hard to put into words. But yeah, it's been a crazy month.
I bet you got a lot of messages, particularly after the fourth official one, because I was watching it and I saw a substitution was being made. I was like, is that Reuben?
Yeah.
I bet you got a lot of messages after that one.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, I think it's something like 200 plus. It was like ridiculous. But I made sure I replied to them all and stuff like that. And the most sweetest thing was I was getting messages from people like, oh, we worked together at Topman 5 years ago. I'm just like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Mates from school, I was in the year 1 PE class, and I was like, this is insane. And again, almost a bit of a realisation actually how watched it actually is. Look, we all know the Premier League's massive. We all know it's broadcast all over the world. But I think when you get messages from people that you've not spoke to for like 15 years of your life, it's like, wow, this is crazy. But yeah, it was generally a surreal day, surreal feeling. And to say I've done it, wow, yeah.
Talk me through that feeling of your first championship game then. So the appointment comes through. I'm guessing a lot of excitement to begin with, and then you stood there leading the players out. What's that like?
Yeah, do you know what I think it is? I think the bit that people don't see is the build-up, to be honest. I think it's the whole stuff around getting the game coming through. That's one thing. And excitement is up there for about an hour. And then that quickly probably turns into a little bit like, right, I need to go and do the job now. I need to go and referee this game of football to the best of my ability. So then the prep starts. And then with that becomes some nerves, which is good, which is healthy, I think. And the day that stops, I'll probably pack it in. But yeah, it was New Year's Eve, which was quite nice to be down in London and had a little free fireworks show from the hotel room. So that was decent.
Did you go to bed before midnight?
I tried. Well, what's the point? I'll be up in 2 hours' time or whatever. So I had a nice little free show from my window from the hotel, which was nice. And then matchday morning comes, and listen, the nerves are there, the excitement's there, all these feelings are going through. But I got a bit of advice saying, listen, when you walk out of that tunnel, just walk out and put your chest down, put your head up and be proud of yourself. I probably think that's something I don't probably do enough, to be honest, in terms of saying, I think to say I'm proud of myself takes quite a lot. I rarely do it, to be honest. But that was a day where it was special. I remember being stood there and the players knew it was my first game. They didn't tell me that, but they knew that. The managers knew it was my first game. So I stood in the tunnel. I remember turning around to say, all the best, gents, let's go. And it said at the top, the Lions Den. And I was like, come on, here we go. And then walked out, had a really good look around. And then genuinely, when you start the whistle, it's game time. But all that pre-match stuff is, it's just, you're just trying to take it all in, but at the same time, not look like it's your first game and all these little bits and bobs. So it's a lot, but it's great.
How did it go?
Well, overall, to be honest, overall. There's always going to be one or two things in there, of course, and I've sat down with my coach and gone through all those bits and bobs. My coach, Mike Tinger, he was at the game, which was good to have him there as well. Look, there's always going to be things in there. But I think, regardless, in terms, as long as it was an absolute car crash, which thankfully it wasn't, I was able just to sit down and go home to my family on New Year's Day and celebrate New Year with them, but also celebrate the game as well.
They must be really proud of you as well.
Yeah, they are. It's sweet. Yeah, they are generally a massive driving force of the stuff that I do. And yeah, they played a big part in all of this. And I think it's quite important, like, I think footballers touched on it in the past. I'm not just there as myself, I'm there with my family and whatnot, and they tuned in on telly and stuff like that. So to get messages afterwards as well with them lot saying, oh, congratulations, well done, amazing. But it's great because when I go back home, I've still got to go do the dishes and whatnot. It doesn't get me out of doing the dishes. The flex doesn't stretch that far, unfortunately. That's the sad part.
Well, let's go with that, with your family and how you got to this point, because there will be plenty of sort of referees, maybe people who aren't referees yet, maybe people who aren't, want to become referees thinking, wow, this guy at 27 is refereeing in the Championship. He is a fourth official in the Premier League, standing next to Europa League winning manager, you know, Unai Emery, Graham Potter. Is it realistic for me to, you know, in 10 years' time, be at his level? What happened to him that he managed to get to that place quite young? Why don't you tell me about your journey from, you know, childhood up to getting to this point? Because where you are now, it's hard to imagine you being in a better position at this point.
Yeah, take you back. Look, I was born in Leicester, 2nd of August 1997. Nice summer, good time to be born. Grew up in an amazing household. My mum was really young. My mum was 21 when she had me, and she had my brother at 19. So very, very sort of young upbringing. But, you know, my mum, very active mum. Dad wasn't around, unfortunately. Dad was involved with the wrong people, so he was never around. And my mum made that decision very young to say, listen, this is not good for, you know, my boy. You need to sort of just leave us alone. And if I want to rekindle that relationship in the future, that's on me, but she's got a duty to protect me, which was the right decision, by the way. So grandma, I lived with my grandma, my brother and my mum. Grandma was great. Grandma was a young grandma, and she almost played dad as well, to be honest, and done all the bits like taxiing me to school or to football when I was younger, or training, swimming, all these little things. So life was great. Life was really good. You know, mum's fun and she's buzzing and whatever. But unfortunately, 27th October 2003, me and my grandma took my mum to a friend's house. She was on a night out. Said, love you lots, see you later, take care, all this sort of stuff. And went home, sleeping, must have got to about 1 a.m, or about 12, and I heard this really loud bang. What is that? So I remember, I run to the top of the stairs. I was 6 years old at the time. Run to the top of the stairs, stood at the top of the stairs and sort of froze. Grandma done the same thing, ran to the top of the stairs, stood there and froze. And unfortunately, my mum was lying at the bottom of the stairs. So being so young, I'm thinking, what can I do? I've got no sort of medical training. So I just jumped on her chest. She's making this sort of really weird sort of breathing noise. Next minute, we got the ambulance round, got the neighbours round, and everyone's in my house. And mum got carted off into the ambulance. My grandma went with her. So I stayed with the neighbour that day. The next day, I went to my granddad's house because my grandma and granddad were separated. And my brother was there, and we were just talking. And I said to him, well, you know, mum's not well. You know, mum's really poorly. She had a bad fall. Granddad was very, very silent, very silent. Me and my brother jumped in the car. Granddad drove us to the Royal Infirmary and got out. I could take to the same spot now. The words he said changed my life forever. He put his arms around me and my brother, who was 7 at the time, so 6 and 7, and said, your mum's gone to Jesus. And obviously, I knew what that meant. My mum passed away. And my whole life just completely tipped upside down. You can see, you know, it's still upsetting now, but at the same time, that's, again, my really big driving force. My memory's broken down in absolute bits. You know, my best mate is passed away. You know, how can I navigate through life now at 6 years old? I have my best mate there. And, you know, she was 27. So me turning 27 in August of last year was tough, really tough, because I'm thinking, this is hard. And all these things that I get to go and achieve now are brilliant, but it almost feels sometimes a little bit unfair, because I think, why could my mum not live past this point and go and do all these things that I'm now going to do? Not in refereeing, of course, but just in life, go on holiday, buy a house, all these things. It's tough. It's tough, and we'll touch about that in a little bit. But growing up, my grandma then, you know, she lost a daughter, so she's got severe depression. Granddad resorts to drugs. My grandma gets sectioned, unfortunately, into a mental health hospital. My granddad goes into rehab and goes to live with his parents to sort himself out. So me and my brother go to foster care, and was in foster families for years. We'll have, you know, 5 years here, 2 weeks there, really much dotted around a lot. And then I lived with a foster family when I was 12 called Van and Clive. Really key people in my life. Amazing human beings. And again, don't get me wrong, amazing foster families along the way also that playing that I'll be here all day if I listed all the names. But Van and Clive were great. I went there at 12 years old. And I remember how I was at school. I was I said, that wild side at school in terms of uncontrolled wild. You know, naughty at school, getting in trouble with teachers, getting kicked out, getting sent home, getting in fights, getting, you know, put on different schools to go there for a week and then come back. And it was just, school was chaotic. But I just found it so hard to process all these feelings that I was feeling. And it's not an excuse. I'm not looking back to excuse how I was to people, because it was bang out of order. But it was probably my way of coping, I think. Any emotion I felt that was upset, I'd deflect it with anger. I'd deflect it by kicking off or flipping a table or whatever it could be, just to deflect the fact that actually I'm struggling. Like, I'm really, really hurt inside and I really miss my mum. That was tough. I remember just a little point about school is get a report card, and 5 would be you've had a really good day and 1 would be you've been awful. And Val, bless her, looking back now, it's just so beautiful. I remember I'd take the report card home and it would have 1, 1, 1, 2 and a 3. And Val would take it and she'll ignore everything and just say, well done, mate, you got a 3 today. I think back now thinking, you know, puts a tear in my eye thinking just those little small things she'd done was magical. But I grew up, year 11 now, I'm 15 years old, got turned 16 in August. I'm thinking, I'm not going to pass GCSEs because I'm not good at that. What I'm going to do? No idea. So I'm playing football in the sports dome, bang into the wall. I snapped my wrist. Thinking, wow, okay, that's 3 months out of doing nothing now. My PE teachers at the time said, why don't you referee? You know, so sitting down, do revision, why don't you just come referee PE matches? I said, I don't know how I feel about that. I said, it was either that or you're going to go into revision class. So I was like, right, okay. Right, pass me some sort of whistle then, please. So they gave me like a squistle, like a squeezy whistle. So I've done that. I just literally refereed PE matches for like 3 months. And it was so sweet. The teachers, bless them, Miss Crouch and Miss Paris at the time, Mr. Gress and Mr. Marsden, they like cut out red and yellow cards for me and laminated them. And I remember over 3 months, I was like, this refereeing thing like seems all right. Watch a game of football on TV. Watch Crystal Palace against, or Brighton versus Crystal Palace. I think Wolverhampton Zaha scored 2 in the playoffs. And I ran downstairs to Van and Clive afterwards, kicked the door off the hinges and said, I want to be a referee. I said, I want to be a ref. And look, the bit that puts a lump in my throat out of all of this, back then I wanted to do table tennis, so they buy me all the table tennis stuff. I want to do boxing, they buy me all the boxing stuff. I want to do rugby. Because I had no sort of sense of direction or focus. I'll try a bit of this and I'll try a bit of that and I'll try this and I'm bored now, so I'll try that. I ran in and I remember saying to them, I want to do this referee course, I want to be a ref. And I think the most easiest thing they could have said back then would have been, Reuben, you do all these things, just think about it or whatever. But they looked around each other and they went, is this really what you want to do? I said, yeah, it is. And they went, okay. And, you know, still emotional like that okay changed my life. Massively changed my life. Took me places I never thought I'd go to, done things I never thought I'd do. Brought me friends and friends for life, and yeah, just a beautiful, beautiful moment in my life that I remember. And Man and Clive, I stay in contact with them now, but that's how I got into refereeing, and that's how I managed to walk out of the championship, and that's how I managed to stand there on the Premier League game as 4th official because of that okay on that one day.
I can see in your eyes how much it means to you now. I mean, I guess with refereeing, people often don't think about the emotions behind people and how they get to that point. Do you think maybe that's something we should think about more, that referees are people and your story is extraordinary? And I guess you don't, because you're sort of going through the motions now and just climbing the ladder and the sky's the limit with you, you probably don't always take a step back to reflect on what you've already achieved. But you've managed to achieve something brilliant.
Thank you.
And there are other referees who are human beings, have these, you know, backgrounds which people don't even think about when they come onto the pitch. Do you think that's something that maybe we should keep in mind a little bit more when it comes to it? Or I guess you don't necessarily want, you know, you want to go out there and do your job, and I don't know, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's probably down to personal opinion. I think, look, I get it. People work hard for their money and they spend their money to watch a football match. And in their opinion, sometimes I can ruin that in their opinion sometimes. And sometimes I might be right. It's not on purpose, I promise. So I expect, because they're not shouting at Ruebyn Ricardo, who's gone through X, Y, and Z. They're shouting at the referee. And that I can live with. That I can, look, it's fine. I got into it knowing that's going to happen, and it happens, and that's okay. Then the bit I struggle with, or I don't really get, is when we come away from that environment. So when I jump in my car and I drive home and I am someone's grandson and I am someone's brother and I am someone's uncle, why someone then goes back to their life and then wants to find me on Instagram and send me a message or whatever. That part I don't understand. I don't lose sleep over it. I don't sit there and read the messages and it affects me, but that's personal opinion. But there could be somebody else where it really does affect them. So when we're out there in the green bit, I get it. I think when we go back to our lives and people go back to playing roles of a dad and a husband and all these sort of different roles, or a wife and a mum, I think that's a bit, I don't understand why someone will then want to message them when they're away from that environment. That bit I don't get. Like I said, personally for me, I'll have a look at it and I'll delete it and I'll move on. It's not an issue. That's me. But there could be somebody else where that does really affect them. And that's a bit that I don't understand. And I think that's a bit that just needs to stop. And that's for football as well, bearing in mind. We see how much abuse footballers get, and people in general in sport. I think when they're out there, okay, they expect to get a little bit of flack and a little bit of jip. When they go away from those roles, they're just people. And I think the most thing is, that's just one thing we don't have to worry about. That's just one thing that we don't have to worry about. It's amazing, I go out there in the Premier League and the Championship, and it's amazing. I want to do that week in, week out. Of course I do. And that's one part of my life, though, that is good. It's great. There's other parts that I've come away to and I find tough. Sometimes my grandma's mental health might not be right. So I've got to play, again, the grandson role and make sure she's okay. And, I've got a beautiful niece and nephews that I need to look after, and, they keep me on my toes. That's one thing for sure. But there's other roles that I have to go and do. I'm not just a ref. I'm, a human being. And if I went full time in football, I had my own business in mentoring. So I went into schools and mentor children who come from sort of similar backgrounds as myself, and just talk to them and make sure they're all right. And I still do that now. It's hard because obviously football's like now my job. But I pop in now probably 2-3 hours a week to the school that I actually went to where it all started. And that's special. So every matchday -1 that I do, I stand on the school pitch that I was as a 15-year-old. And I'm thinking, I'm going to referee this team tomorrow, X team, or going to go here tomorrow. Let's get back 12 years ago. I was stood here with a squistle refereeing little PE matches. So that's always a humble feeling as well.
I'm feeling this huge jump from what you've told us so far. You told us about your background, your childhood, and what you went through. It's a crazy amount to go through as a kid. And you said how you dealt with that was sort of through flipping out, anger. You've decided you wanted to become a referee. And now the person that I'm speaking to is clearly someone who is empathetic, who thinks about things a lot, is in touch with their own feelings and wants to help others. How did you go from that kid with a lot of anger and a lot of upset, and I can see you still have that upset there, to this person that you are today? Tell me about that journey. You mentioned working at Top Man.
Yeah.
Tell me about Ruebyn Ricardo between the sort of ages of 16 and going full time.
Yeah. Again, tough years in my life. Tough years. Like I said, I was refereeing like Sunday morning football, which I loved, which was, again, the opportunity to express myself and manage 22 different sort of people and characters on the Sunday morning. I think the biggest challenge was then believing that this now was a possibility. I believed it in terms of I dreamt it, but did I really think I'll get here? And I don't know. It almost just seems like it's just sort of happened. But growing up was even that phase was tough. I was starting to change a little bit in terms of how I was as a person, but still don't really think that I was in a position to do what I do now or go into schools and do different talks and stuff. I did sort of go down the wrong path for a period of time, but football always brought me back. Refereeing always brought me back in terms of, refereeing on a Saturday. I've been promoted to level 6. Oh, okay, this is interesting. And then, another year went by and I went 6 to 4 and I'm like, right, okay, I'm now an FA referee now. And all these little things were just starting to happen. But I think, to be honest, I've always, in my mind, always been a bit of a full-time ref because I've always worked part-time jobs to make this thing work. I remember my first ever job, I worked at Chiquitos. I was on £3.79 an hour. And I used to literally do like 6 hours a weekend. And I remember my grandma, bless her, said to me one day, she was like, I will pay you to not go there. I was like, what a woman. Because it just wasn't working the time. Like, I was literally going there, wiping tables and like being spoken to like an idiot.
I don't think we'll be getting a Chiquito sponsorship.
Yeah, I know. yeah, sorry, yeah. Yeah, sorry about that. Well, the food's decent, by the way. The food's good. The food's good. Really like it. Really good. So no, there's that aspect of it. And then I worked at Shoe part-time. And that was a good job, to be fair. That was good, and 40% discount, by the way, when I worked there. Yeah,
maybe we'll get one with them.
Yeah, it's unreal. That's 6 pairs of shoes a year, 40% off. It was so good. Yeah, Christmas was decent. So that was good. I worked there part-time for about 2 years. I loved that job. And then, but I'm literally doing all these part-time jobs, top man, like I touched upon. I'm literally doing all these part-time jobs so I can go to the gym and so I can referee on a Saturday or referee on a Tuesday. So I've always always lived this sort of lifestyle, but the difference is, I think, in terms of the fixtures that I'm getting, because I was just really wanted this to work. I remember coming through, people said, don't make refereeing your life. And I was like, no, but I want it to be. Mates, it was hard. Mate, I remember my first mate, he got a proper job, worked at Santander, worked at the complaints team and he got like a decent amount of money compared to what we were getting paid. And I was like, that's tempting. That's quite tempting just to go 9 to 5, Monday to Friday and do that. But if I do that, then this football thing will take a bit of a hit, in my opinion. So I generally just took the short-term hit and worked part-time jobs just to tick me over, get me by, put £20 petrol in my car and to get me from here to Nottingham or Derbyshire or wherever I had to travel for football.
Why did you care so much? What was it about refereeing? I mean, you touched upon it, the playoff game between Brighton and Crystal Palace. Wilfred Zaha scores those 2 goals. The away fans go crazy. I can picture it now. Why do you come away from that game thinking, I want to be a ref? Where does that motivation and desire come from? Because I can feel it now, like you felt so strongly about it.
I think it just clicked. Like I said, it was like I was looking for something to put my energy and time into, and I couldn't find it. Like I said, I want to do rugby, and I'll literally jump straight in. Like, I'll get all the shoulder pads because I needed to. I'll get all the shoulder pads and I'll get like a really nice gum shield from the dentist, and I'll go for it. And I'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I'll come away from all that, and then I'll be like, I want to play table tennis. So Batting Club will buy me like a really expensive table tennis bat, and I'll be like, I don't want to do that. And I was just so desperate to put all these emotions that I was feeling into something that made sense for me. And when I found refereeing, it was like, that's it. Like, that is it. It's just like it clicked. It's weird. I was like, that's what I want to do. And it was weird because I remember Batting Club came to me one time after like 2 years and was like, oh, you're really taking this seriously, aren't you? You've not like quit. And I'm like, no, like, I'm loving it. It's great. Like, I want to keep going. And it just like, everything made sense. It was like, this is a place where I can put all these feelings and emotions and focus into and distract me from all that sort of stuff and put it into this. And that was just the one thing where I was like, yeah, this is it.
What do you love most about it now? Because you've clearly got that purpose in life that you were probably looking for. You've channeled all your energy into it. You're basically a full-time athlete. You've got, it's your life. What now do you really look forward to about your job?
The matches, for definite.
Yeah. The
matches, 100%. The walking out part for me. And when it goes well, just that ability just to come home and that was a good day. That was a good memory. But I always say not to put a bit of a doom and gloom or a grey cloud over it, to be honest. I remember when I was 6 years old, I scored my first goal. And I can make it sound amazing, but it wasn't. I just literally kicked it and it went in. When everyone's around the ball and I just kicked the ball and it went in.
Toe poke.
Yeah. I ran off giving it the old fingers. I ran off to the away crowd.
Yeah.
And I ran up to my mum. I ran up to my mum and saying to her, Mum, I've just scored. She's like, amazing, well done. Like, I'm so proud of you. Gave me a kiss and a hug. And I was just stood there like, yeah. She's like, well, carry on then, because the game's going on still. I was like, okay, right, sorry, yeah. I remember that feeling at the time, being like, oh, you know, that was the first person that I ran to in that. You know, I've just scored my first ever football goal, which felt like I just scored for England in the 99th minute to send us to win the World Cup. I was thinking, wow, this is an amazing feeling. And she was the first person that I ran to. So this is amazing what I do. I love it. There's always a flip side to it sometimes. And I think when I come home after Villa and I'm relaxed and I've replied to messages and it's so heartbreaking not having that person to run to. And a bit of me is that 6-year-old boy still that just wants that hug and that kiss to say, well done, Reuben. Or when I walk out at Millwall and, you know, ready for my first championship game, it's like when I finish, it's like, she's the first person that I want to run to and I can't. And that's heartbreaking, that's hard. That's tough. And that's something that I've had to learn to accept. And it's not even in football. This is, you know, I bought my first house last year and, you know, if someone's stupid enough to have kids with me in the future, I'll have kids, and you know, not having their grandma here and not being like, these are your grandkids, and not being like, Mum, I've just refereed a championship game and hopefully one day I've refereed a Premier League game, and you know, Mum, I bought my first house or whatever. Is to accept that is really hard. But on the flip side of that, to make it positive, I just have to try and understand if she was here, and this is hard to admit, but if she was here, she would give me that hug and that kiss and say, I'm proud of you. And I just try and pocket that moment as a 6-year-old boy when I scored my first goal and carry that through from then until the day that I stop all this.
I can't imagine that pain, but I'm sure she would be really proud of you.
Thank you.
We met last year at the BAMREF conference, and I think you do reflect on how far you've come as a person, and I guess you're wanting to make your family proud, make your mum proud, but you're also making a lot of other people proud through representation. You know, diversity in refereeing hasn't been great over the last 20 years. It's improved massively in the last few years. Do you appreciate your sort of role as a role model? Do you take a step back to think, you know, when you have those moments, when you're refereeing in the Championship, when you're the 4th official in the Premier League, that there are people out there that look at you and because they can see you, they think that might be them in the future?
I probably don't. To be honest, I probably don't. And I only realise, I think, when I go to an event or do a talk and people come up to you, I think that's probably the only point where I'm like, wow, okay, this is like crazy. And I think it's only in them environments where I think, you know, wow, this, you know, people want to come up and talk to you and speak and ask for a bit of advice, and, you know, people might drop me a message and ask for a bit of advice on this and stuff like that. I think it's only in them moments where I go, oh, wow, okay, this is, because I remember being on the other side of the coin, by the way. And that transaction to you now being the person where people want to talk to or ask for a bit of advice from is generally humbling. It's generally humbling. And I don't ever want to get to a point where I'm like, oh, you know, I would hate it. I mean, if I did, my grandma would probably give me a whack around the head, to be honest. But I never want to get to that point. But I think to tell yourself you're a role model, I don't know, it doesn't feel comfortable, to be honest.
Yeah, because you're humble, but you must see that, because you've been on the other side of the coin, you've probably seen other people in positions, and there's that phrase, if you can't see it, you can't be it. You know, if you all of a sudden see someone that looks like you, that might open it up in your mind as a possibility. And that's what you're doing for people, even though you're just going about your job and you're furthering your own career. You are having that effect on people.
No, I think it'd be unreal if someone could come up to me in 10 years' time and say, oh, I started refereeing because I watched you referee Brighton v Crystal Palace, for example. That would be a bit of a wow moment. But for now, yeah, I said, take it all in my stride, and I'm very sort of open and whatnot. If everyone wants to talk, we'll have a chat, and it's great. And I think it's nice as well because I've still got that now in terms of there's still, colleagues and friends that I look up to and think, wow, I'd love to be in your position. And I talk to them and after that, and they talk to me, and that advice and how they are with me is how I want to be for other people as well. So I suppose it's a bit of circle of gratitude, to be honest.
What's been your proudest moment so far? I guess you can give me two in your life overall and as a referee, or they might be the same one.
I think my proudest moment in my life is, I'm a Christian, so I think being baptised was a proud moment, because just sort of resembled how sort of far I've come. I think in football, I would probably have to put it to the Premier League game. Yeah. I think that was a moment where I was like, this is insane. So I would probably put it down to, I think, don't get me wrong, I hope we can do this, this time in a year, 2 years, and I can say, referee's fine. But no, all genuine, to this point now, 100%, putting on the Premier League shirt and then walking out and seeing your name on the programme and hearing your name over a tannoy, that is a surreal feeling. So I think the Premier League fixture, Aston Villa West Ham, was my proudest moment.
Do you set goals for yourself?
I do, but it's generally not a case of I want to do this by then. I set goals in terms, I used to be like that, I want to referee this many games, but I think now, in terms of perspective, I think I just want to, and I said this in an interview I've done recently about the Championship game, I just want to enjoy every game that comes. I want to enjoy every single game that comes, and that's enjoyed everything, as in the hotel the night before, the travel, coming home. I want to enjoy the whole experience, because there will be a day where I don't do this anymore. That's factual. That could be tomorrow, and I hope not, or it could be in 20 years' time. But there will be a day where I don't do this. And I'd hate to look back and go, I didn't really enjoy it because I wanted the next thing and the next thing. And I do. I do want to referee a Premier League match. I do want to referee Championship games week in, week out. I do want to referee on FIFA and go to tournaments abroad. I want to do that. But I think in order to get there, you have to enjoy the process. And that is so important, because that is part of the journey. That's part of the end plan. So for me, the process is the key part, and that's the part that I want to enjoy.
I'm going to push you. Is there an ultimate dream though? Come on. That was a great answer. That was a really good answer. And you're totally right. But is there one thing that you really want to achieve in your career where you think, wow, that is complete?
I used to say to get bussed into a game,
Yeah.
I used to want to get bussed in, and that happened obviously at the Villa game. I was like, oh, this is great. You sat there like water in the little holders. I was like, oh, brilliant. So now that's done.
Yeah.
I can probably move on.
Right.
No, I think for me, if I had to put it down to, if I could just pick the one game I want to referee or something, I would love to go to a World Cup and referee in a World Cup. That is something that I'd love to do. And of course, don't get me wrong, I'd love to get the final, but I know there's lots of things that have to go your way for that to happen. But just to get on a plane and say, I'm going to referee in a World Cup. Yeah, that would be it. And I'm sure we'll get bussed in there as well. So it's a double winner, isn't it? It's a win-win.
No, I don't think anyone can blame you for having that as your ultimate dream. I think that's my dream as well, but although I'm not quite as far along in my journey.
No.
So I think what would be nice to finish with, because we've heard your story and I think it's incredible, it's inspirational, the fact that you are where you are at the young age that you are, but also, from what you've overcome and how you've dealt with really significant trauma is incredible. What would your sort of standout pieces of advice be, I guess, to referees primarily, but also for young people who are maybe struggling with where they're going in their life and thinking, what can they do? What would you say to them?
So I think the first answer to your question in terms of referees, what advice I can offer to younger referees is, it's really hard. I wish I had just a sentence and just go, there you go. So I feel like it changes every time.
Cool.
People say, oh, you said this last time, actually.
Yeah. It's not a natural question to answer.
Yeah,
Really.
I just generally think, and it like going back to level 7. I mean, my first ever fixture was, I think it was Pucker Pies versus Trinderbox on a Sunday morning. I mean, that's a proper game.
Yeah.
Like, that's a proper game. I think going back to those moments, that goes so quick. And I remember being very young and keen and eager. I wanted to get parade. Of course, and I'm like that now still. But like I say, I'm going to pull it back to the answer I've just already answered is...
enjoy the process.
100%. That is it. That's probably my sentence. Ask me that again, I can tell you a sentence now.
That was a good enough answer.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah.
That's enjoy the process. And then the second part to you about what I can offer to young people that are just struggling in general is... it'll be okay. Like, it'll be okay. And I'll probably flip that from enjoy to endure, I think. Enjoy the process. It's hard, like it's tough, but it will be okay. And you don't have to be at a point in your life where you don't need to be doing these games or whatever, or doing this in career. I think just waking up every single day with a smile on your face, whether you're working, wherever you are, that's the key. That's the key. I'm lucky that I get to enjoy this as a job. I love what I do. I'm so lucky that I enjoy my job. But I think whether I worked wherever, if I enjoyed that too, then that's just as an achievement as well. And I think don't put your success on certain things. Don't pin your success on, I need to make X amount of money, I need to drive this car, I need to buy this house. No. Like for me, success is going through life. Challenges will come along the way, overcome them challenges, and standing there happy by the end of it. That's the point. So that's my advice to that question as well.
Well, Reuben, it's been a pleasure speaking to you. I've learned a lot just from listening to you talk, and I'm sure our listeners will have done as well. So thank you very much for joining us on the Centre Circle podcast, and can't wait to see you at the World Cup one day.
I hope so. Pleasure. Thanks for having me on. Thank you.